Another modern interpretation of a classic Universal monster film. Does it hold up? Let's find out.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again until we're both dead.
There's only like 12 stories. They change around little details, but all pretty much the same.
Deja vu. Something very familiar about it.
Hello, welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews and connections in mind. Wolfman is the latest remake of a Universal monster film. It is once again directed by Leigh Whannell, who previously directed 2020's adaptation of The Invisible Man. And it stars Christopher Abbott and Julia Gardner as a husband and wife with a young daughter who go back into the woods of Oregon to settle up his late father's affairs when they encounter a unlikely creature who is, of course, the Wolfman, and things just escalate from there. Now, this review will contain spoilers of Wolfman as well as certain other movies, but I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, so just so you know, there will be some spoilers later on in this review, but first things first, let's get into some spoiler-free talk on Wolfman. Is it a wonderful adaptation of the source material? Is it worth seeing in theaters? I would say, with January releases, there's some of them can be really great, but more often than not, people drop, studios drop movies in January. It's the dead month. They drop them where they're going to go die. And while I can't say this is the worst movie I've ever seen in a January, I can't say it's the best either. Now, full disclosure, I have not seen the original 40s era Wolfman from Universal or any of the other spin-offs that come for this. And I'm also not a huge horror fan in particular, but I was pleasantly surprised with the how competent and well-made Leigh Whannell's Invisible Man was back in 2020. And I was open for, all right, he did a good job with the Invisible Man. Let's see what he does with Wolfman. And I will say, on a technical level, it looks fine, and there's some interesting visuals associated with this. When you're trying to show a dream state or an altered state of reality on the screen, that isn't always the easiest thing to pull off. But I think they do a pretty good job. You see the world from the perspective of the creature, the Wolfman, and the perspective, the reality of the people. And there's sort of interesting things that they do with that, but not nearly enough. I wish they had done a little bit more with that, and it just felt like they had there's some extra effects budget lying around that you wanted to try. It's like, oh well, let's just use this, we'll experiment for this, but we can't really do much with this now. Let's just keep going, and that's kind of a shame. And also, I think is a shame in this is the themes. And what I mean by the themes is when you go into a werewolf movie, there's certain things that are almost par for the course, right? You have someone, who's turning into a werewolf and they probably don't want to be a werewolf. And there's the battle between man versus beast, like how do you hold on to your humanity and not succumb to the monster that's going to eat everyone. So there's that, and that is present in this a little bit, but there's also some interesting themes in this in regards to generational trauma. I'm not giving it with that, and I'm not going to go into details in the spoiler-free section, but I will say there's some very interesting parallels that that are throughout this. That while obvious in their setup, they're really interesting to explore, I felt, and would have done this movie a great service if they had delved deeper into those things or focused more on them. But instead, it feels like whatever deeper meaning that it was trying to evoke gets pushed aside in favor of, we need to just do some jump scares. Let's do some jump scares. Like, you have the wife, wandering around the house in the dark, and you see, it's like, well, it got really quiet. The flashlight's gonna whip around, and you'll see the Wolfman. It's like, well, that that stuff is coming, and it's not particularly scary in that front. And there are certain scenarios where the characters get into where it's like there's almost no suspense on there because the character, the Wolfman is doing something where it's like, well, it's like, I'm glad you stopped your bashing against the door for just long enough for them to get away. It seemed to be working really great for you for a second there, but then you just, the script demands, they gotta move to the next scene, so let's just go away now. And it's like, it devolves into those kinds of horror tropes that, when the script demands that the character live while the monster does something dumb and, they move aside. That kind of thing that really drags the movie down, in my opinion. And like I said, there's some really interesting things and some interesting context that I feel like this movie could have been great from that standpoint, but because it feels beholden to following these tired horror tropes in, relying on jump scares and not really delving into the kind of themes going, that really drags down. Also, I will say, while the acting is fine from the father and the daughter, the mother, played by Julia Garner, she is portrayed as being kind of removed from her family, and if especially at the beginning, it was like, well, okay, the theme is, by the end, she's going to, be a better mom at that point, and sort of, but that doesn't come across in her acting. She seems fairly one note throughout the whole movie. When she's not, screaming, and slashing the knife as any good horror movie would have her be, there's not really enough time spent with her trying to reconcile with her daughter and being obviously she's protecting her daughter from Wolfman, but you could have done so much more with that, and this movie just didn't feel interested in doing that, in my opinion, and that's a shame. And this movie could have been so much better than it ended up being. So if I was going to give Wolfman a letter grade, I would say this is a solid C, middle of the road C. And I'm also adding a new rating system for movies on this channel, what I'm calling the scale of unoriginality. I'm releasing a explainer video for that. It's going to be linked to on my channel homepage. But for right now, on the scale of unoriginality, I would say Wolfman weighs in at a level of less than original, meaning you, and it's pretty similar to a middle of the road score. You've seen it before, but it could be worse. And so those are my main spoiler-free thoughts on Wolfman. Now let's get some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. So first off, the notion of the Wolfman's special night vision kind of thing. It looks kind of interesting. Visually, it makes me think of The Expanse a little bit. When the pro-molecule infects someone and then they're able to see things in a certain light, or the Miller's disembodied personality is able to view structures where they're not visible to the naked eye, that kind of thing. And in this movie, it's almost deployed in the same manner as Predator, the Predator vision sort of thing, where it's the thermal vision on that, but not quite as extreme. And also associated with that, the way the mindset of the Wolfman is portrayed, where when switching into his perspective, you see, the husband is, trying to understand his wife, but what's coming out of her mouth in his mind is gibberish. It kind of makes me think of Batman Begins, when the fear toxin gets released, and you see the people looking at each other, and like you see monsters from their perspective, and they can't really understand each other that way. That was just what flashed into my mind. Like I said, you've seen this kind of vision before in different properties, but it was a unique vision, a way to visualize it. Like I said, not always easy to portray a different perspective like that. But I think it did a pretty good job with it. I just wish they did more with it. And lastly, like I said, they didn't dive into the generational aspects of this as much as I would have liked. But one of the twists that I think was blatantly obvious, that they were hammering home what was going on with it, and they linger on it as if it's a mind-blowing twist, but it really isn't. Is that Blake, the husband, his father is in fact the Wolfman, and has been stalking him and infects him. And when they kill him, you see he's got the tattoo that they showed him. It's like, yeah, we kind of knew that when he disappeared all those years ago. They finally been declared dead. It's like, well, gee, I wonder where he is. But it made me think of the way the Chronicles of Narnia, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, depicts the dragon sickness, where Eustace, he becomes a dragon and then he has the piece of jewelry or whatever that belonged to the previous the one lord they were looking for, and it's like, oh well, he's a dragon, and it's a dragon, and it's like, oh well, who's that? And it's like, oh, it turns out that the guy we were looking for was in fact the dragon. Then the guy became the dragon again. It's like that made me think of that for whatever reason. I'm sure there are better examples of that. That's just the one that came into my brain. But really, like I said, this movie could have been worse, but it had the potential to be so much better than it actually was. So those are my main spoiler talk thoughts on Wolfman. What did you think of this movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which will be for the streaming release of Star Trek Section 31, which comes out on Paramount Plus on January 24th, I believe. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially a subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have said it before.